It feels like a mission, and the mission is clear and has been clear for a while to create bridges or windows into a different world and to show people that another world is possible, one where really the impossible becomes possible and we see a different version of the world as it currently exists.
Welcome to Voices of Esalen. I'm Sam Stern. Today we sit down with Ari Kuschnir, a filmmaker who's become one of the most provocative voices in the new art form of AI cinema. You might have caught his viral Transmutation series, where public figures from Donald Trump to Elon Musk to RFK Jr. ingest a little digital ayahuasca and reemerge humbled, bearded, and blissed out. Or maybe you saw his recent time travel short that drops us into Esalen's heyday in the 1960s, which appears to be shot in eerily authentic 16mm grain. In this proudly weird new medium, Ari fuses a documentarian's eye with 25 years of editing chops to turn these raw generative models into hallucinatory dreamscape machines. In this conversation, we trace his journey from founding the production studio Missing Pieces to discovering AI's instant wish fulfillment potential while making animated cat adventures with his daughter. We talk about editing in flow states, cloning voices, and the ethical tightrope of wielding tools that can just as easily birth weaponized propaganda as utopias. Most of all, we explore how Ari's work functions as a kind of collective dream work, offering the rest of us a cathartic glimpse of world leaders choosing empathy over ego. So cue up your headphones and tune the rest of the world out. Here's my conversation with Ari Kuschnir. What inspired you to choose public figures like Donald Trump and Elon Musk and RFK Jr. as subjects for artistic transmutation?
Well, I'd been experimenting with it. Started actually more with doing things with my daughter. Then I realized, I can make them really fast, so I could respond to the culture in real time and create this alternate reality. There's been this idea in our circles, if you gave enough psychedelics to enough of the leaders, they would change. And I'm not 100% sold on that, given that we've seen a lot of our friends go
Yes.
on many, many psychedelic journeys, and some do change, but some also it kind of reinforces their spiritual ego or bypassing or all the traps that are there. So I saw that opportunity and I was like, oh man, it would be I needed to come to terms with Trump. I could see he was gonna likely become president again, and I was like, man, I gotta like figure out what is it about him. So it was like spur of the moment inspiration, like many, a couple hours, 3 hours from like having the idea to like the finished thing, just kind of like get into a flow state and start generating images, not a clear sense of what the script should be, but knowing that, okay, some podcaster is going to tell him about ayahuasca. He's going to want to go do it. And then he doesn't know what he's getting into. And then he's going to see the truth about his parents and where the core wounds come from. And then he's going to give it all up. And then he's going to, because he's Trump, he's going to want to be the best at the new thing, which then gets into the Bliss Express, the Bali to Tulum to Esalen boat that sometimes gets, again, you see these people that are sort of like on it all the time. And it's like, when do we land?
Can you describe the narrative arc of the Elon Musk transmutation as well for folks that have not seen that? That's what really sold me on your work. I show that piece in the class that I teach about AI and creativity at Esalen.
Well, I should give credit to David Sauvage, who came in as a dear friend and came in as a director, shaman. And he came in, I mean, I've known him for a while, and I reached out to him after the Trump one and figured we should work on that together. And this guy, Yvonne, also helped on that. It's really his script. He saw what I was doing and he took it to another level. And we work really well together because he's very, very clear, one of the clearest people. He's got that shamanic storyteller level quality that he can get to the core of an idea or the core of a person. And then I still am a believer in that it's cinema, I don't know what we call this, AI cinema, AI film, using the language, visuals and the sounds and the soundscapes and the immersion and the visceral quality and the psychedelic quality that those, it's getting harder and harder to do that with AI, like to trip it out and make it look like Elon and Mars kind of disintegrating and all this fun stuff that you could do at the time, in a way easier because it was more crude. It was earlier on, so there were more it were more hallucinations, you know? But yeah, that was the idea. And it seemed like Elon has to, the 12-year-old in me is like, yeah, let's go to Mars. And then there's a part of me that's like, we got to fall in love with Earth first. We got to fix this, you know? I understand the backup of humanity and all this, the spiel around it, but we workshopped that last line, David and and I remember when we landed on, oh, the journey to Mars starts within. It's like the whole,
Really good. The piece of that short that really touches me is that there's this deep desire to see a more human side of some of these leaders. And with the narrative arc that you have Elon go on, he takes ayahuasca and then he gets in touch with his good side.
It started with a call from Trump. His voice, there was something different about it.
You got to try this ayahuasca. Trust me.
I was burned out, overwhelmed by the chaos of X. So I figured, why not? I saw everything, the fear I carry, and how I use technology to escape my pain, all the harm I've caused even while trying to do good. And that's when she appeared. She embraced me with a love I've never known. It was like finally being, understood, being cared for, being loved without condition. When I came out of it, I knew what I had to do.
Feels like there's this dynamic of wish fulfillment, or almost this film speaking to our collective unconscious desire for good to come out in a landscape where we have so many of these figures who are acting in tyrannical, abhorrent ways.
yes, I found that seeing these guys transformed, or at least in the Trump one, it's unclear whether he's actually fully. And that's partly my just doing it fast, and partly the Rorschach, two screen mirror of the culture that
Mm.
some people like when you put it on. When I teamed up with Jason Silva to release it, a lot of people in his community are very psychedelic, very open. So obviously they're all like, "Wow, he became Ram Dass," you know. And then on the other side, Don Braz or whatever, they were trying to like riff on Ram Dass and Donald. And then with the Elon one, it's very clear that Elon Watts, somebody said he looked like Elon Watts. So seeing them kind of happy and giving up the power kind of trip, and then just like this humbleness and the beard, and it's very, I think, cathartic,
Yeah, it's
right?
healing. It's
It's
weirdly
healing.
healing, even though it is fantasy.
And I have a theory, and this is where I get a little more new agey, that if enough of us, I don't know, that Trump one alone probably was seen by tens of millions, let's say, but I have no way. I would find it in accounts that didn't credit me or didn't even call it something about ayahuasca, and it would have millions of views. So it got sent to me on WhatsApp as a pirate video, as like something I would like. That's when it's sort of
Yeah.
like the full circle of like
Wow.
it's blown up. So let's say, 20, 30 million people. I mean, if enough people watch it, I think in our collective imagination, something happens, or in a collective consciousness, something has to happen. And this is where I think it's really powerful, and where we get into um, sort of my latest, what I've been thinking a lot about in the last 2 weeks since that Trump AI Gaza video that he retweeted that was supposed to be satire, but he ended up using as propaganda. That thing is so corrosive and so dystopian, and so the opposite of almost like someone taking what I purely wanted to gift and turning it into the most nihilistic, satirical, meets propaganda ends up being propaganda because it's that's what happens when you play with fire in a way. And so I think like, oh, right, this is a tool. We can use it like every other tool to create, to show that a different world is possible, or it's going to be a weapon, and it's already being weaponized to create more dystopian worlds. And that Gaza thing is a perfect example. Like that's something that nobody liked, you know, almost universally panned,
So you're referring to an AI generated video
Yeah,
that
you
shows,
haven't seen
like,
this?
yes, I have it. It's but I just
Yeah.
for the edification of
Oh
anybody who
yeah.
hasn't seen it, it's like Trump Gaza, some like
Yeah, it's a riff.
hotel that's set in the Gaza Strip.
It's a riff on something he said off the cuff, as he usually does, kind of come up with some shit, whatever comes to him in the moment, which seems to be a lot of how he operates. He was like, we should take it and we should make it into a thing. And his idea of a thing is kind of like that Vegas meets Dubai kind of
Yeah.
aesthetic, and he thinks that that's like cool. He's still kind of in that at that frequency. So somebody heard that and decided, oh, wouldn't it be fun to show that, and without any further thinking, I think, than that. And they made something that was really awful. And I got hit with like people thinking that I made it. Did you make that? And I felt really misunderstood, and I got triggered
Mm.
and offended and hurt.
How do you feel about being associated with the vanguard of AI filmmaking as I would say one of the first people who's been able to separate themselves from the pack of people who are just sort of like fiddling around?
Well, I like the vanguard. I like experimenting. I started my production company 20 years ago, not knowing I was starting a production company, just inspired by this, excited and inspired by storytelling and technology where they meet. And at the time, for example, you could see, oh, YouTube and the so-called video iPod, which became the iPhone, we're going to change everything. And they did. So as storytellers, how do we create, things for that? And same with AI, starts to brew. I start to see, oh, wow, this is really the tool. And, I'm an edit. I fell in love with editing in film school, and that's the thing that I keep coming back to. I feel like a really, really strong editor. And so now you're in the most privileged position if you have good taste and you have good discernment and you know how to tell stories and you know how to compose shots and you know how to give yourself materials to make a killer edit. Well, you're kind of like in the best of times. So, I have a production company that where there's a lot of directors that do live action, and some of them, were concerned and are concerned about what's happening, what's going to happen, everyone in the industry. And you can see it right now. It's sort of like a shifting tides. But I wasn't a director by trade. I wasn't attached to being I've got 20 years of live action documentary filmmaking or
Yeah.
something like that. So I don't have any baggage.
Hmm.
And so I could approach it very freshly. And I approached it initially through the lens of my daughter and my inner child, kind of the wish fulfillment of like, wow, now there's a thing that you have an idea in your imagination and you can almost instantly bring that world to life. And for her, it was amazing. Like when we did those little, very crude now cat videos, series about cats going on adventures, animated. And we did like 10 episodes, I think, in total. That was so fun. Like
Oh,
I had a blast. I remember doing it with her and thinking like, wow, I haven't had this much fun in a while,
yeah.
where you just feel creative flow plus childlike creativity.
Hey, have fun, mommy! Yay! Meow! Yay! 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 Meow! Let's go to somewhere to the forest. Well, that was a crazy land.
Are you composing the music as well?
Yeah, I'm using Suno often. And, in these last time travel ones, like the Esalen one, I'm just syncing to
Hmm.
Instagram Reel. Instagram Reels allows you to license, basically sync to any song almost. And so I realized, oh man, if you could sync to the Doors Break On Through, the Esalen stuff, and edit to it, and then when you upload it, you basically resync it because you already know where the beat starts. It's like a music video. You're using like songs that used to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars if you wanted to license them for nothing. So when I'm not doing that, I am using Suno, which is one of the two or three music composer AI things. And that's another fun thing because I'm guessing like you, I have a deep love of music and very clear ideas of how the soundtrack should feel. And so with that one, you can also go, here's what I want. And then you sort of get something and then you try again. And then, oh, these 30 seconds are good. So take these 30 seconds and then from 32 second on, build more and then bring
Yeah.
it down. And then all of a sudden you've got this amazing track, which is really fun.
Right, so you just mentioned that you did an Esalen-based piece, which I mean, you were already very much on my radar, but then after I saw that, I was like, oh, we got to talk. So can you describe the piece that you created?
Yeah, I should say that it was a kind of interesting feedback loop between probably you and me because I had thought about the SLN thing when VO2, the Google AI came out, which is I think the most advanced one. I got early access to that. I want to say this was maybe 2 months ago, I noticed early on that it could do, I can't remember how I got to it, but I was like, I wonder if it could look like the 80s or it could look like 70s film stock or something like that. And I did some prompting and lo and behold, like all of a sudden the thing looks like it was shot in that era. You're basically telling it like 16 millimeter Bolex, 18 millimeter lens, and you kind of like giving it handheld docu style. You're giving it the prompting, but it's doing it a pretty good job most of the time. So I had thought, oh, wouldn't it be cool? I have this like a lot of people have this aspirational thing with Esalen, have been there a couple of times. Have only been there once, but it left an impression. And I had picked up the Upstart Spring, the book, and I had read it at the time. This was 2018 or something. And I thought, man, somebody should really make a documentary or a docu-series on that. And then I looked online and there wasn't much
No.
filmed. There's some photographs, but there wasn't much filmed then. So once I unlocked, oh, I could do these AI time travel ones. The first one I did was my childhood. I grew up in Cali, Colombia, and I was like, wow, could I bring out the vibe of Cali in the 80s when I grew up with the soccer and like the vibe, salsa, use like an iconic salsa song that's about the town, Cali, the city. And that was a huge hit in Colombia. So I knew, like, I was like, oh, this is real. So then when I was thinking about what to do next, I remembered the SLN one. And then you showed my Elon video and this was over the weekend, I think last weekend. And somebody sent me a picture of the thing and I shared it. I thought it was fun because the films have started to seep into really interesting places. They sort of have a
Yeah.
life of its own and end up in
Yeah.
interesting places. And I thought, oh, that's cool. That maybe is a sign that I should work on this Esalen thing. And I started to get excited about it. I was like, could it do the people? Could the people look like the people? Can it do a young Ginsberg and a young and a Fritz Lang, all the original cast, the 60s, 70s kind of, cast. 65 to 75 is the period that I'm kind of loosely covering in that. And to my surprise, you can recognize the key people.
So in terms of your creative process in creating something like that, are you first creating still images within a program like VO and then animating them within
Yeah.
a video?
Well, VO2, what's interesting about VO2, the Google thing, is that it's enclosed. So you can't bring a photo from somewhere else. You have to do the photo first and then the video from the photo. Or you can just do the video straight up, but you kind of want to see what it's going to look like because it takes quite a couple of minutes to render. And then it gives you four options, 8 seconds each.
Hmm.
And that's cool because that's where you get the different, sometimes it does it closer, so then you can cut in the scene
Yeah.
because it's hard, and then you can do more variations. So that once you lock something cool, like say in the Esalen video, some of the scenes with the teachers, you can get different shots of them. So it's not just this like wide shot, close up, and you get maybe the people reacting and the feel of the room. And that's what makes it stand out as well. So VO2 is quite unique in that you can't bring anything new into it. So I can't like put a picture of say Gabriel Roth and have it riff on that, which you can do that like with Kling and others. But you can describe, you can do a prompting, which I do on ChatGPT, like give me a detailed description of what somebody like that would have looked like
Ah,
then.
wow.
What would they dress? What would they look like? What would their facials? And then take that in.
Ah,
And we see them in such and such room, which would have been the room that they would have been. And sometimes it gets it right, and sometimes it doesn't, but it approximates pretty well. I mean, you tell me. You're the, like, how did I do and on the Esalen
and
reality of
getting
the era?
the and getting the vibe of the time. I think it's
Yeah.
great. I think that it's very much as the Upstart Spring point of view. By the way, I'm always raving about the Upstart Spring as sort of like, I mean, I love the book Esalen, America and the Religion of No Religions, but it's such a weighty 500-page tome. With Upstart Spring, you have like a 200-page, juicy, sort of gossipy compendium of the first 20 years of the human potential movement.
So that book was on what's the Internet Archive? Internet Archive, it's called.
Yeah?
Somehow that book is there.
Ah,
So I was able to take that because it's basically public domain. They
yeah.
made it and put it into ChatGPT so that it has all the information now
Yeah.
of what went down.
Wow.
So
Wow.
then I'm asking ChatGPT, give me 10, I mean, I can show you. They give me 10 prompts or 20 prompts of specific teachers and moments and places and how it feels. And that's how it began.
That's brilliant.
Yeah,
I
so I'm letting it, I'm feeding it, and then I'm saying, then I'm giving it the parameters, 16 millimeter, handheld. Every
Mhm.
shot should be handheld because that's how, if you were Maisels or you were one of these like big
Yeah.
60s documentary and you went to shot it's like Don't Look Back style, it's all handheld and
Yeah.
it's all 16 mil and they use like one or two lenses and, it's all verite. So I'm emulating that with the shot description.
The thing I love about your work is that it flies in the face of the ideas that people who are like never AIers have when it comes to art, because you'll often hear them speak about, well, where's the human in all of this? This is cold, this is boring. There's not a lot of like human intervention, but actually when I'm hearing your process, you're extremely thoughtful and you're making decisions and choices.
Yeah, people think it's like I press a button and the Trump thing came out. And it was like 25 years of editing, knowing how to create the feeling of a
Right.
psychedelic,
Well,
underworld journey, all these things.
there's a lot of moments in your pieces where humor comes across, and it's the humor, the punchline only plays because of timing and because of music and because of like a surprising choice that you made, a surprising visual choice.
What are you thinking when you say that?
Like like in the Transmutation of Elon Musk, after he takes the ayahuasca and he goes through the hell journey, there is the glorious reemergence that I think for anybody who's gone through a psychedelic hellscape, and you suddenly see Elon probably like 3 months removed from his ayahuasca experience, and he has this long big beard and he's kind of handsome and shirtless, and that to me was, I just crack up every time I see it.
Yeah, same with the Trump one and the Maduro one. Often I'm doing it to kind of like make peace with these people.
I saw it all: greed, lies, my father's lack of love, my mother's coldness. Demons, dark entities, everything I'd buried came rushing out. It was brutal and life-changing. So I left politics to heal myself. I gave away most of my possessions and I went to India, meditated with the gurus, met all the mystics, studied all the metaphysical schools, seeking the truth. I did every therapy, somatic experiencing, breathwork, and parts work. You wouldn't believe the things I tried. I purged everything I thought made me great. Slowly, the suffering started to fade. I started sharing what I'd learned. I created something bigger, holding space for others. an intentional community. And I led with love, guiding people to reconnect with their higher selves. They say I'm the greatest shaman now. Nobody does it better, and maybe they're right. It's a new kind of winning, one where I lead others to peace.
Yeah.
Like with RFK Jr., I'm like, man, that guy gotta make, what's his deal? Like I gotta make peace with that guy. What is his deal? Like what is driving that guy? He seems to say some things that I really want to hear, and yet, I mean, he feels like he's barely holding on to his soul or something.
What I see you doing is forging a path for yourself that allows for personal intervention within sort of like the narrative that it's all foisted upon us. And I particularly feel helpless often, but you're utilizing the powers of these emergent technologies to empower yourself in some sense, your consciousness. And there's something that the medium, I think, of AI is particularly good at doing that because its ability to like replicate, but also to like push forward in a dreamlike consciousness or a surreal kind of vision.
Mm. It's almost like I feel like there's a saying like create the world you wish to see or something like that.
Hmm.
I kind of like am committed to that. I mean, I was surprised that nobody had else had done Trump doing ayahuasca when I did it. You know, I was
Yeah.
like, I mean, there's been like pictures and people have talked about it, but nobody had made the thing. And I was surprised when I was the only one that thought that they could, why can't they be friends and go on a road
Yeah.
trip? Or that we can see what Esalen was like now that we have this tool. I'm often I'm often in that space of like, oh man, wouldn't it be great? Or if all we have is the news, which is really harsh, and or dystopian visions of the future, we're starving. We're starving for the fact that these films have resonated in the way they have, which did surprise me in terms of how many people have reached out and seen them. It basically proves my intuition, that my intuition is right, that we're dying, starving for more of this. It's a very specific thing that I'm after and I'm able to do with the AI stuff. So I'm grateful for that and thanks for saying it.
So having worked in this medium over the course of like a lot of successful shorts, I feel like you might have a good grasp on what AI is particularly good at doing, and maybe what are some of the things that it might struggle with? What are some of the limitations of this medium?
Well, the challenge right now is dialogue, like if you think about it, what I've done is I found a great device, which is the voiceover, because the
Ah,
dialogue has been so bad.
because of lip sync?
Because lip sync plus performance plus
Mm,
there's a bunch of reasons, but
yeah.
it's just now there's one called Hedra, and there's a couple. Kling has it. I did it in the RFK one. I sort of crossed into that. I was like, okay, the second half is the shamanic woman. She's going to talk because he can't tell that story. She has to
Mm,
real time kind of take him through the journey. And it worked, but it's like, oh, let's just show like 1.2 seconds here, and
yeah.
still covering a lot of the mistakes or a lot of the places I couldn't get to.
When you're,
So
sorry, but sorry to
yeah,
interrupt, but when you're generating voices, are you cloning their voices and then using
yeah.
like
So
11
so then I'm using 11 Labs and I'm using voice design, which is you can basically tell it like the music. I want a Mexican accent, older woman, very wise.
Mm-hmm,
But you feed it a lot, and then you start generating options, and you land on one option, and you say use that, and then you can adjust the parameters of that
mm-hmm,
too, slower, faster,
mm-hmm.
more intonation, less, more dramatic, less. I mean, it's crazy.
I did it. I took the fluoride out of the water. I banned seed oils. I put big food CEOs in their place. I told Big Pharma, no, more vaccines. I felt healthy. I made everyone else healthy. Everything I dreamed of, I achieved. I felt like I'd made the world safe. But I didn't feel peace. I couldn't sleep. I felt myself sliding into a dark spiral. I kept thinking about that burger Donald gave me. I wanted it.
So limitation, dialogue, possibility, the speed in which it can respond to the culture, really
Hmm.
exciting. Like this Trump Zelensky thing, it happens. They have the fallout in the White House on Friday. Monday afternoon, I think my video is coming out, which is showing you what you had there was people that were
Yeah.
acting like children, and
Yeah.
they're acting like children because they're triggered. And so let's go
Yeah.
back to in the dream state, to the
That
moments
was
in
touching.
which,
That was touching. You in that video, you basically touch upon Trump was bullied horribly as a child, as
yeah,
as,
and
as
this is
was Elon
not,
Musk. Yeah.
yeah, as was Putin. This is not me making it up. I mean,
Yeah.
this is like confirming, like I'll ask the chat GPT or I'll research, be like, and like the Putin quote verbatim,
Mm.
he
Hmm.
said, only the weak, what is it? Now I forgot the quote, but it's like, only the weak lose or something like that. That's something that was ingrained in him because he was raised in those very troubled streets, kind of like street gangs. And so, yeah, and like with Trump, it's like the dad stuff is well documented. I mean, it was really, I mean, his brother became an alcoholic and basically died or couldn't handle it, essentially. Trump found a way to handle it, and now we're all having to deal
Yeah.
with that. So that's all there. And I'm not making anything up. I'm just pointing out, I mean, I'm making up assumptions, but I'm pointing it out based on what we know, what I think was really happening in that meeting. Because it felt very like like teenagers
I,
arguing.
I feel like speaking about the characteristics of the medium, AI is really good at dream, surrealism, hallucination, memory, wish fulfillment, all of these things that have a tinge of unreality but feel hyper real.
Yeah.
AI is in like a very good spot for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. The cool thing is like right now, I don't know what I'm going to do next. That is part of the joy for me. I got to tell you, like
Yeah.
having spent 20 years in client services, and I mean, I'm still there, but the funny thing is I do these on the side essentially. This is like become like this is like the side hobby that's become the thing people want to talk about. But it's good. It's good for in every way. But having spent all that time, I mean, what it takes to make let's say like a big commercial with like agencies and clients. It's like designed by committee. I mean, there's tons
Yeah.
of people on set. It's pre-production. And that's not even counting a movie, which is even more intense and longer periods of time, years sometimes. So I kind of work purposely in this very emergent way, which I've always wanted to work, which is much more like an artist and much more like a intuitive flow state. I don't write anything down unless until I have to, like until we get to the part where we're gonna write a voiceover. It's only alive when it's alive, and then it goes away.
Hmm?
Like if I wait too long, there was one that I was trying to make about the world leaders getting abducted, and Joe Rogan was gonna narrate, and I just waited too long, and got, um, it just died. It's gone now. So I'm saying that because I have a process, but it's pretty emergent. And because I'm kind of in this position where I can just make them when I want to, I'm not, I usually try to do one a week, but I I'm not bound to that at all. It's really great. It feels really great.
How do you envision your work evolving in the future if AI were to continue to grow, develop, become more realistic and more sophisticated?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of existential questions facing the storytelling industrial complex and just about everything else with AI. There's questions about environmental. Somebody brought up the like environmental thing the other day. I was doing my best to mitigate that by running, when before my neighborhood in the Palisades burned down, I had like 90% renewables on my bill. So at least the energy I was using was clean, but I know it's not clean. We are, and then there's the ethical dilemma of the way these things are programmed. I mean, Google's probably better because in YouTube you're opting in. My friends, Bryn and Paul, just launched a new Moon Valley, a new AI that is ethically trained, and I'm gonna get the beta any moment. And I'm very excited because if it can do what I think it can do, and you can feel good about what it was trained on, then we're a step further. So, sometimes I rationalize it by saying, well, what I'm doing is important and needs to come out now. So I'm going to use it's like means to an end. Like I'm going to use the Chinese messed up one, but I'm going to make a hell
Is
of a
that
point.
is that Kling?
Yeah, Kling, which is great, but who knows what that thing's trained on, it's just a black box.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of questions. There's ethical, environmental, and then we get into the existential. And I think I don't want to get into like the conversation about existential because I'm purely using it in the storytelling sense. But I think it's exciting. I think it's new. I think it's allowing us to tell these kinds of stories. The fact that I think people miss, and I think some of my peers that are more classically trained, I think they're missing that the magic of thinking, intuiting. Wouldn't it be great if you had a short where RFK Jr. had to, did everything that he said was going to do, but then, he still wasn't happy. And then he went to this looking for this burger because Trump gave him a burger. And then he met this shamanic woman and it's kind of Lynchian. And, she could see that what his issue is at the core is this Kennedy curse, which seems to run to everyone in the family because the first, the Joe Sr. kind of like went for power no matter at all costs. And so then it becomes a karma thing. Then it becomes about ancestral trauma and an ancestral curse. And then the twist at the end, which is, power comes with a price. RFK Jr. now has the power to change things in a positive way. And at the same time, he's aligned himself in a way that he can't help that woman. And the twist is she's an illegal and she's getting deported at the end. I mean,
That's one of my favorite ones, by the way.
right.
That's a
Well,
that's a
like
great
think
one.
about like imagine thinking that and you could never make that,
Right. Yeah.
2, 3, 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
One
And
year ago.
now it can be made.
Yeah. Well, if you could have RFK Jr. watch that, what?
Well, apparently RFK Jr. watched the Trump ayahuasca thing because a bunch of people like that and send it to him. This was before he's like lives in Santa Monica. I mean, like, and it was sent to him and he watched it and he was gonna try and get Trump to watch him, watch it.
Oh my
But
God.
that's as far as I heard. And the same with Elon. Like Elon was like literally like people were like, "Oh, I'm gonna see him this weekend," texting me that kind of thing.
Well,
So
if these public figures were to sit down and watch your films, what would you hope they might take away from the experience?
I think this is where the idealism can hurt me. I can sound naive. These people are psychologically complex, they're shamanically complex. Like it's like I don't know where they're at. I think I have a sense of where they're at, but I don't think like watching a 2-minute video is gonna drastically alter their um
No.
the course of their life. But it's not made for them. It's made for us to figure out a way to deal with them. I just did this 1920s one. That's kind of like Birth of Cinema. Birth of Cinema's 1900, right? The late 1890s. I'm doing them to match what we perceive as the look and feel of each era. I don't think you can do like medieval Europe because then it just looks like a bad
Yes.
Lifetime movie
Right.
of so it really I think this time travel thing only works in it's like a Marshall McLuhan thing. It's like it's only the medium is the message, so you can
Yeah.
only go to when it was filmed in a certain way,
Oh, how interesting.
I think I don't know. I haven't
Yeah.
tested it yet, but I actually don't think you can go further back than 100 years or so. So anyway,
Do you have a feature in you? AI feature?
yeah, I think I don't know if it's an AI feature, but I have like a kind of, I think like a docu plus AI feature.
Mm.
You know,
Hmm.
I'm really drawn to documentary, always have been. And I'm also drawn to things that feel like documentary, but maybe are sort of on the edge, you know, objective,
It's oh,
subjective.
it's definitely edgy because with documentary, there's a subtext of the real.
Yeah.
And with AI, you're essentially drawing from imagery that is unreal.
Yeah.
So there's a tension, but I think it could be a productive tension.
Yeah. So I think I have something. It's going to take a while, but I think I have the seed of something that's kind of like, it's like it would be kind of like the UFO doc to end all UFO docs, you know?
Hmm.
I find UFO
Perfect.
docs,
Perfect subject matter.
I
Perfect.
find the UFO doc, even this last one, Disclosure, that just premiered at South by, everyone's excited about it. And then it's just another talking heads with a lot of claims, and not, we see the same four videos and nothing happens.
Ari Kuschnir, it's been incredible to talk with you. For folks that are going to check out your work, they should go to Instagram to Ari Kuschnir. The first name is Ari and your last name is Kuschnir. Again, that's Ari Kuschnir on Instagram. I would love it if you could give our listeners maybe your top three most interesting videos they need to check out, or maybe top five if it's that hard.
Yeah, the ones that come up are the original is the transmutation of Trump, the Trump ayahuasca. The Trump and Biden one seems to keep going, even though it's kind of, you know, it was a spur of the moment when they met. You know, if like what would happen if they were friends and went on a road trip throughout America. And I forgot to say I came up with that because my parents were coming to town and they had just voted for Trump, and I was like, oh, we gotta reconcile, you know, we gotta figure out a way to do what could we make that we could all watch and laugh, because it was very tense. So, you know, the RFK one for me, I think, is the most advanced type of storytelling. The Esalen, I think, really captures like the psychedelic vibe and the tone and the feeling of that time and that air, at least from where I'm at. And the same with the my hometown one, Cali. I think that's really special, and seeing the reaction was really heartwarming. And then this, I'm just thinking about the thing I just made this weekend, which is this. This is all inspired by my partner. She's been writing this book for the last 10 years called Tenacious Magic, and she finally finished it. And it juxtaposes the story of Catherine Mansfield, the writer, going to the Gurdjieff, the prairie in France, going there for the last 4 months of her life because she had tuberculosis, and Gurdjieff was already becoming this kind of enigmatic teacher and had this commune there. And that is very mysterious and not well documented what went down there in those last 4 months. And then her meeting a kind of Gurdjieffian style teacher in New York, the power dynamics. So it's like mirroring the two stories, and Catherine, almost Catherine's ghost, reaching out through time to her. And so the women start to kind of interweave their stories. It's really beautiful. And she had just finished it, and I thought, man, can we go back to 1920s to the prairie? Because literally, there's like four pictures of Gurdjieff, no video, no audio, like one audio where he just tells a story, and the crazy music, you know, the fun music for the movements that he made. So, and Catherine Mansfield, you know, so early, there's just photos of her. So this is like even harder than SLN
Hmm.
to tap into, and it was so beautiful. And here we're doing both. We're using her voiceover to tell that story, the feeling of the prairie, and a Gurdjieffian song that he wrote with with Thomas de Hartmann in that era, that then de Hartmann recorded in the 50s. That, man, I've been listening to that Gurdjieff music over the
Hmm.
weekend. It's super beautiful, hypnotic. It kind of like puts you in a flow state. I think he was trying to like snap people out with the music, and the movements. Of course, the music was to make the move, you know, to do these particular movements. So I'm excited about that one too, you know. But thanks for doing what you're doing. I feel like, you know, having dipped in, what is it, long time, first time caller.
Long time
long time
listener.
listener. I appreciate what you're doing. I feel like you're keeping a certain flame alive and connecting dots. And yeah, and to hear your thoughtfulness around my work and AI in general is really cool. And I want to see that presentation that you gave. I'm interested in how you're weaving it all and what your point of view is. And yeah, it feels good to talk.
Ari Kuschnir, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Today's show is produced in conjunction with Shira Levine. Our theme music is by Nico Holloman. Additional music by Blue Dot Sessions. Not that anyone is asking, but I use ChatGPT to help me write my intros and to generate some questions for my guests. Never let the suggestions of a large language model supplant your own creativity. In other words, edit, curate, and add your own point of view.